Hello, I'm Sunil Abbas, and my sign is this. I live in Chennai, India, Tamil Nadu. I'm deafblind, and I was born in 1980 in a city called Trivandrum, which is in Kerala. 2003 to 2010, I was working on my own. I had trouble accessing the computers, but I found solutions myself by changing the contrast, changing the color of my cursor, and working on different solutions that will work for me to access the computer. Computer hardwares were my thing. I could not see them, but I touch and feel them. I got a job as a hardware engineer. It was really good. I was very good at work. I was able to solve all the issues that I was assigned to. But commuting became increasingly difficult after some time. I could not commute to work because of my increasing low vision. Then I set up my own hardware solutions at home. I started getting jobs to set up people's computers and in other devices. I was working from home. But I also began to continuously lose my eyesight. I started looking for technology that can support me. I remember back in 2000, I used to have a small phone. It will be very hard to see and access my phone. But I kept upgrading my mobile to the latest technology as the years progressed. And phones now have a lot of features to change the colors, to change the contrast. There is a lot of accessibility features now. I designed my own assistive devices. I programmed my calling bell with bright yellow lights all through the house so that I will know if someone is at the door. I designed the board and fixed it for myself. It helps me to be independent.
Perhaps the most striking thing that comes across when you meet Sunil is his confidence in himself as a problem solver. And the fact that he has created his own technology solutions because he had no access to solutions that are truly tailored for him. Zamir Dale, the founder of SEDB, the Society for the Empowerment of the Deafblind, he speaks of this barrier and he says that in all his travels across the world, he's seen people who are deafblind being successful, being independent. But in India, there are barriers because of an inaccessible environment and because of a complete lack of services specifically for the deafblind. This became a major topic of focus for us and in the 2 national conferences of the deafblind run by the deafblind, we spoke with deafblind adults and conducted surveys to better understand, or conducted interviews, not really surveys, but interviews, to better understand what are the restrictions, what are the facilitators. The 2020 conference really opened our eyes to everything, everything that could be and everything that just was not available to them. This was supported by NISH, and the next study that we did was supported by Saksham Trust and FICCI. And both these studies together really helped us understand very, very, very key issues regarding ATUs and people who are deafblind. The final source of the information for this presentation comes from the actual practical experience of deafblind adults teaching deafblind adults. What were the main findings? One was the huge importance of technology. Those who had access to technology lived freer lives, more independent, accessing across all areas of life. The big thing that we noticed was not just access to technology was lacking, but access to training was lacking. And this is something that the first speaker today spoke a lot about. And then, of course, the third big area is the lack of tactile interpreters and lack of access providers, which is a presentation all by itself. The second study really highlighted for us the importance. We focused in on those who do use technology, who do rely heavily on technology, who accept technology, who want to learn technology. And we found that smartphone was the go-to solution for pretty much everything. But we were horrified. We did this assessment, these interviews during the pandemic. And so we could actually watch them while we were doing the interview. And we were appalled at the way they used this wonderful instrument, the smartphone, and all the things that they did not know. I'm going to let Sunil speak about this, about what he does with a smartphone. And he realized that his colleagues had no knowledge or understanding of. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this. Sorry, I have to voice for Sunil. This one I'm voicing? Me voice point. This is the first one. Okay. Sorry, we literally built this presentation yesterday and day before, so we are still figuring out how we're going to deliver it, so pardon us for this. Okay, this is Sunil talking about the cell phone use. I'm going to voice for him. The deaf-blind need to know technology really well. They need to understand the different features, and they need to make a really clear plan. They need to have a good idea of these things. So I help teach them. See, deafblind people everywhere, they really want technology, but they need help. What do I help them with? I tell them about font size and how it can be increased. I tell them about magnification. Because the old, that will help increase accessibility. So I help them learn these features and they get really excited. Magnification. I show them how they can do it and they're amazed. The old way is to use something you hold in your hand, but now this has changed. You can flip colors and use a magnifier, and this is really helpful. I teach them, when I open the internet page, the whiteness of the page, the glare hurts us, and we teach them how to change the color. YouTube videos are really fast, and I teach them how to open settings and slow it down. And this really helps them. Everything becomes clear, visible, and they're able to learn. When they learn these features, they get so excited. I can't believe they didn't know this stuff before. When they learn this and understand it, then I'm able to show them more things. Oh, sorry. Are you? I'm sorry, he's signing so fast. Yeah. So I teach them how they can do different things, like instead of going to go and book a ticket, they can book tickets themselves online. And they learn, I teach them how to access concessions. I teach them how to open settings, to make changes, so that they can connect with their braille displays. And they're so amazed. They are so amazed. There are so many different things that I can teach them and encourage them to learn for themselves. What we realized when we did the calls with the people who love and use technology is that they were using phones, because many of them have lost their vision as adults. And so they were using phones as they've always used phones before, not exploring and not learning all the available features. Again, this morning, Ajit, the first speaker, spoke about how the biggest learning happens peer-to-peer. Well, if your peer group, when you grew up, were deaf, but now you've become deaf-blind, that peer group is not going to be able to support you on solutions for visual impairment. If you go to a group of adults with visual impairment, they don't know how to communicate with you because you use sign language. So you're learning from each other, who tend to be other deaf adults who are losing vision. So the end result is this stitching together of various pieces of technology, which end up really being so minimal. And yet, this was the group of people who were most excited about using technology. After all these efforts, including the training program that we did with adults who are deafblind, by adults who are deafblind, there were 4 key recommendations. 1, literacy and technology education needs to be available right from school age. Because without literacy, none of all these things that were being possible by people like Sunil, none of this would really work for an adult who is deafblind. The second, developing a supportive ecosystem by deafblind adults, having deafblind instructors working with deafblind adults, people who are losing vision or losing hearing. The third, skill training and AT awareness has to have deafblind trainers. And the last, that deafblindness, in order for all of these things to be possible, deafblindness itself needs to be listed and recognized by the government as a unique disability, because the requirements of people who are deafblind are truly unique. I'm going to take a minute to talk about each of these, and I'm going to use again our adults who are deafblind. This is Arihant, and I use Arihant to talk about the importance of early literacy and what it could look like when you do it right. Arihant, like many others, was born deaf, but I'm going to say had the good luck of losing vision early enough that he was still in school and we could connect him with appropriate services so that he did learn Braille. And this, then you can see as he slowly, by the time he finished school, he finished his teens, he became almost totally blind and was entirely reliant on Braille as his primary access mode. So I'm going to let Arihant speak for himself.
Hi, I'm Harihant and I am from Chennai. I'm currently studying 12th standard, but the schools are now closed because of the COVID 19 pandemic. I hope to go back to school by the month of June, yes, by the month of June, and resume my schooling. Here, this is my braille reader. I love this device. I have a lot of stories in this. This also has a feature called Orbit Chat, in which I can chat with the person next to me. I love chatting. I love reading. This helps me to improve my knowledge. These are my braille notes. I have notes like this for all my subjects, like Indian culture and social science and many such subjects. See, I have acquired a lot of them. This is my braille watch. Let me show you how to check the time. The time now is 6:35. You can open the watch, read the time, and close it. I love playing carom.
I hope we, it's a very short video, but I hope it captures for you that excitement, that love, that sort of want, as Sunil says. I want. And I want to be able to do this myself. I want to be able to access this myself. I want to be able to get this myself. I also want to say to you how hard it was to give him access to technology. Why was it hard? It was hard because of the ecosystem, because acceptance from all the people who make decisions in a child's life was very hard to come by. Especially during the pandemic, although it was possible to provide him with a device, there was also a lot of resistance because they were worried that if they gave him a device and he had any problem with it, if it couldn't be solved immediately, he would get frustrated and angry, which is true, he would. But as a result, to completely cut him off from a device is something completely unacceptable to someone who's so reliant on technology to stay connected with the world. So creating an ecosystem is essential. Working with families, working with educators, these are very key, and again, I have to say best done by adults who are deafblind. It took two adults, Sunil and another colleague of ours, to actually work with them, to help them all understand, accept, and then pass on a device to this young man. The second ask is working alongside 80 developers and app developers, especially given the love for smartphones, because usually problem solving is for the deaf or for the blind, and dual loss is rarely considered. Empower has served as a platform to meet this goal. Actually, last year, Sunil was here and interacted with one of the app developers who then went back and changed the features on his app so that it's accessible both to people who are blind as well as people who are deafblind. Through the 2-week training course, we also realized that our deafblind trainers need training. They need to learn how to be effective trainers, how to flex to meet the needs of different students, and how to respond to different challenges in the ecosystem. The final thing that came out of this was the urgency to reach people who are deaf when they are young, so that they don't think that their world has ended because they are losing vision. And so they've already started this huge movement, reaching out to deaf schools and deaf clubs in our country, going as adults who are deafblind independently to meet and talk to deaf students in the hope that as they grow older, if they lose vision, either due to a disease, a condition, an accident, or simply because they're getting older and vision is getting harder, they need to know that life hasn't ended, there are other ways. This is yours, Nitya. This is, sorry. Just
So I believe that deafblinds are really good trainers. And why? Because I see many deafblind peoples who have nothing to learn. They doesn't have any opportunity to learn. And if I teach, they are highly excited and they are the very best and they are good understanding persons. Yes, each persons are different. See, if you take a deaf person or the hearing person who teaches, they feel bold. But whether if I teach, they feel they were very excited and they are highly interested to know how we are going. Are you really independent? How you do that? And I tell it's all about with my cane. Yes, I use cane. Earlier, when my eyesight is losing a little bit, I always wander with my friends. I go out, and when it keeps on decreasing, I wanted to be independent. So I started to use my cane to feel independent, and it helps a lot. And I have traveled this world with my cane. So I have traveled the world self with independency. And thank you, and that is the best feel which I had. And second thing is communication. Previous days, I'll be communicating through writings. Once my vision completes to go, I'll be writing and I'll giving the person, this vice versa will be happening. But then after I wanted to do it on myself, so I use my Android phones where I'll zoom it, I'll magnify it, and I'll do my communication. So it helps me to do. And when my eyesight becomes even worse, I used orbit reading. So this orbit reading is all about which turns the text into the braille. So it helps me a lot, and all the deafblind peoples are excited to learn more things. And I love to teach them, and I want to support them. I want to support them, and I want them to develop. And I want them to copy me and to be independent as I am. So I'm so excited. Thank you.
So as you can see, there is such a big benefit to having a deafblind trainer who's able to inspire the participants with this faith that in fact they can make a difference. What we realize with Sunil, with Pradeep, with Zamir, with different deafblind trainers, is that they are able to understand the emotion of somebody, the fears that they have, and support them. They're also able to help them problem solve at a very practical level, having experienced these things themselves. I'm going to conclude with this quotation from Dipali, who is losing her vision now and has until now been very firmly resistant to developing confidence, developing the ability to use any of the technologies that are available. After an interaction with Sunil during this 2-week training, she said, Sunil understands how my eyes see the world. He asks questions about my difficulties in everyday life that no one has ever even known to ask. He found solutions to problems that I didn't realize could be solved. This is the big ask. In India, deafblind people are still not considered a specific category of persons with disabilities under the Act. And this means that it's hard to obtain support, hard to obtain their rights. Zamir says this again about, this is Zamir Taleh, who started this organization, because he said exactly the same thing. Without this commitment, without our visibility, we will never bring change. They would like that they are able to set up a training center where deafblind people themselves provide services, where app developers and AT developers come to consult, and families and people with disabilities, people who are deafblind or becoming deafblind, can join them to see what is possible. I'm going to end here just by acknowledging the support from Zamir, from Pradeep, from Chetna Trust, but also particularly from my wonderful interpreter who sat with me this morning, and her colleague Renuka, who really made this possible, and my colleague Teresa, who helped cut hundreds of videos and pull little pieces together to make this talk possible. Thank you.